Hello, explorer, and welcome to the journey. I'm delighted you're here with me for this adventure. If this is your first visit, make sure to follow along so you don't miss the next leg of the trip. Spreading the word about this tale is like pouring fuel into our starship. It propels us further. Let me know, where are you tuning in from today? I love hearing from each of you. Now let's dive into the voyage. Some revelations don't murmur softly. They hit like a lightning bolt. Undeniable, unforgettable. Mine struck at a wedding celebration, cloaked in a tipsy chuckle and a phrase that's been echoing in my head ever since. Let's step back. I'm Marcus, 47, and I run a commercial construction business I built from scratch after 15 grueling years toiling for someone else. I'm not polished. Give me jeans and sturdy boots over tailored suits, a cabin in the forest over luxury resorts, and a shot of whiskey over vintage wine. But I've carved out a good life. I own land in 3 states, owe nothing to anyone, and every bit of my success comes from years of grit, strategy, and hard work. I'd been with Laura for 2 years. She's 39, a pharmaceutical sales rep, the kind of woman who commands attention. Smart, striking, driven. We met when my crew was renovating her company's headquarters. The spark was instant, electric, the kind that quickens your heartbeat and tilts your world slightly off axis. Things moved quickly. Within months, she was staying at my place most nights. By 6 months, she'd moved in fully. Our life together settled into a smooth rhythm. Predictable, cozy, secure. I don't do things halfway. When I'm in, I'm all in. She had access to everything, my accounts, my cards, keys to all my properties. I even started drafting plans for a house tailored to her tastes. Something unique, reflecting her aesthetic. She knew exactly what she wanted, and I wanted to craft a space that felt entirely hers. Her friends were mostly pharma colleagues and college buddies, polished, high-flying types who did yoga at sunrise and sipped martinis at brunch. Not my scene, but I showed up for her. I went to their cocktail parties, upscale dinners, rooftop gatherings. They treated me with the kind of courtesy you offer a plumber fixing your pipes, cordial but unsure how to engage. I didn't care. I wasn't there for them. 2 years in, I thought we were rock solid. We tossed around the idea of marriage in those light, half-playful talks couples have when they're straddling the line between someday and soon. I was leaning toward it quietly. I'd even started searching for a ring, not just any ring, but something bespoke. I asked a jeweler friend to craft a piece inspired by a vintage ring Laura had once admired in a boutique. One of a kind, just like her. Then came Sarah's wedding. Sarah was Laura's best friend from college, her former roommate, her sorority sister, the one who stood by her at her first wedding a decade ago. That marriage fizzled fast, collapsing when her husband left with his assistant. The wedding was extravagant, almost cinematic. Traditional cathedral ceremony, a 500-person guest list, and a reception at the city's ritziest venue. Live music, endless drinks, photo stations, custom cocktails, the whole spectacle. I wore my sharpest suit, made the right small talk, smiled when expected, even swayed on the dance floor when the mood called for it. I played my role. Later that night, we were standing in a loose group of Laura's friends, mostly couples, most deep into their cocktails. During a quiet moment, one of the husbands, Greg maybe, turned to us and asked, "So, when's your turn? Is Laura next to tie the knot?" I didn't get a chance to answer. Laura laughed, not her real laugh, the one I knew so well. This was staged, sharp, meant for the crowd. She raised her glass toward me and said, "Him. I'd rather stay solo forever." The group erupted in laughter. Someone slapped my back like I'd just been the target of a clever jab. "Oof," they said. Another added, "Don't worry, Marcus, she's just jealous Sarah's dress outshines your pickup." The chuckles kept coming. Laura laughed along, then tossed in, "No, really, can you see me spending my life in a hard hat, approving cement deliveries?" I didn't laugh. I didn't snap back. I didn't make a scene. I stood there, surrounded by people who found mocking me amusing, who saw me as someone she'd never truly take seriously. I set my drink on a nearby table, met Laura's gaze for a moment that stretched longer than most, then turned and left. Not just from her words, but from the occasion, the commitment, the future I'd once held so close. Her voice followed me, first casual, then puzzled, then tinged with alarm. But I didn't stop, didn't glance back. In the hotel lobby, I summoned a car and powered off my phone. By evening, I was at my woodland cabin, a place Laura always called too rugged for more than a quick visit. I sat on the porch under a sky full of stars, oddly at peace for someone whose life had just come undone. By morning, I had perspective. I drove back to the city, timing it so Laura would be at work. That morning was spent making critical calls to my attorney, my financial planner, my bank, not out of vengeance but necessity. When someone reveals their true colors, it's smart to trust them the first time. At home, I packed methodically, clothes, key documents, cherished family keepsakes. Everything else I left. I owned other homes. Plates and couches could be replaced. My time, though, was irreplaceable, and I'd already spent too much of it. Before leaving, I walked through the house one last time. In my study, I collected the blueprints for the home I'd started designing for us, along with the fabric swatches and finishes she'd once picked out with excitement. In the bedroom, I found the small box hidden in the closet, the custom ring I'd planned to give her next month. On the kitchen island, I left my key beside a typed note. You have 30 days to find new housing. Utilities will stay on until then. The card is deactivated. Your possessions will remain undisturbed. Any further communication should go through my lawyer. Details below. No anger, no drama, just the essential facts. I left, closing the door on a relationship that clearly meant different things to us. I checked into a downtown hotel, turned my phone back on, and watched the notifications pour in. 40 missed calls, 61 texts. All from Laura, each more frantic than the last. Where are you? Why did you go? It was just a joke. We were all drinking. You're making this bigger than it is. Please come back. I didn't reply. I blocked her number. The next day, I threw myself into work. Life doesn't pause when your world crumbles. By evening, Laura had tracked me down. She showed up at my office, refusing to leave until my assistant let her in. Her eyes were swollen, her makeup streaked. You can't just vanish like that, she blurted out. I've been losing my mind. I looked up calmly from my desk. I heard you clearly last night. You said you'd rather stay single than be with me. I'm just honoring your choice. It was a joke, she shot back. People tease at weddings. Why are you making this such a big deal? It wasn't a joke to me, I said, voice steady. And neither was the way you ridiculed me and what we had to amuse your friends. Her panic turned to frustration. So that's it. 2 years thrown away over one dumb comment? You're being absurd, Marcus. Act your age. I stood, gathering the papers on my desk. I am acting my age, growing beyond needing someone who doesn't truly want me. Of course I want you, she insisted, reaching out. I stepped back. No, Laura. You want the life I provide, that's not the same. She left in tears, swearing this wasn't over. She was right, just not in the way she thought. In the days that followed, she doubled down. Friends reached out on her behalf. Her brother showed up at my office unannounced. Even her mom called, softly explaining that women sometimes say careless things, and I shouldn't let it ruin something so meaningful. I listened, politely but firmly, unmoved. This wasn't up for debate. It wasn't a timeout to cool off. It was a final decision made with clarity and self-worth. By day 9, Laura's tone shifted. She found out her card was declined, her access to my accounts was gone, and my lawyer had formally notified her to leave the house by month's end. Reality was sinking in. Her messages turned sharp, accusing, bitter. Suddenly, I was the manipulator, the bad guy, supposedly unraveling in some midlife crisis. She claimed I never really loved her. I didn't respond. Words had started this mess, and words wouldn't fix it now. On day 12, I answered a call from an unknown number, thinking it might be work. It wasn't. It was Claire, Laura's sister. She's not okay, Claire said bluntly, no pleasantries. She's been crashing on my couch, crying nonstop, barely eating. Can't you at least talk to her? I've said what needed saying, I replied evenly. She made a choice, thoughtless and selfish. She does love you, Claire said softly. She's falling apart. She's mourning her comfort, not me, I said gently. There's a difference. That's cold, she said. Her feelings were real. Then she should have remembered that before mocking me in front of everyone, I replied. Words and actions have weight, Claire sighed. I've never seen her like this. She's always been the strong one, the one who holds it together. She's tough, I said without malice. She'll pull through. After the call, I sat in my office, staring at the city lights. I didn't feel victorious. I wasn't pleased by her pain. What I felt was certainty. I'd made the right call. 2 weeks after what would have been our engagement day, I was at my cabin, savoring the quiet, when my property manager called. Laura had shown up with a moving van, trying to take furniture and decor that weren't hers. Per my instructions, he denied her access. Things escalated. She made threats, caused a scene, and a neighbor called the police. I thanked him for staying calm and asked for the security footage. When it arrived, I watched it without emotion. There she was, shouting, trying to push her way in. As officers calmly explained, she had no legal right to anything there. The next day, my lawyer emailed. Laura had hired an attorney, claiming partial ownership of the house based on our shared life. I forwarded an old email chain where she declined my offer a year earlier to put her name on the deed. She'd said she didn't want the burden of ownership. A week later, her lawyer dropped the claim. 2 months have passed. Laura's now renting a modest apartment, far from the lifestyle we once shared. Words gotten back through mutual friends. She's telling people I overreacted. I couldn't handle a joke. The same friends who laughed when she mocked me at the wedding now support her version. But it doesn't change anything. I know exactly what she said and what it meant. The custom ring is still locked in my safe. Maybe one day I'll have it redesigned when the sting of that night fades. The house plans have been revised. I'm still building, but now it's my vision alone. No shared dreams, no concessions. It'll be mine, fully and undeniably. Last week I ran into Claire downtown at a cafe. She approached cautiously, unsure of my reaction. "She still misses you," she said after a tentative hello. "She knows she messed up." "I hope she's doing all right," I said sincerely, "but that door is closed." "She's struggling," Claire added. "Lost her job, couldn't focus, missed too many deadlines. She's still on my couch." I nodded. There was a spark of empathy, but no hesitation. "She's resilient, she'll find her way." Claire paused, conflicted. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "You know, I was there that night at the wedding." What she said wasn't just drunk chatter. "She's talked about you like that for years when you weren't around." Hearing it out loud wasn't surprising. I'd suspected it for a while, but it was honest, even if it hurt. When Claire walked away, something in me settled. The pain from that night wasn't about public embarrassment or rejection. It was about finally facing a truth I'd dodged for too long. The relationship I thought we had was a fiction I'd built in my mind. Sometimes, the strongest move is to quietly set your drink down and walk away. Not to make a point, not to prove something, but because you've realized what staying would cost you, your dignity. Laura hasn't stopped. She still tries to reach me, finding new ways after I block her. I've heard she's telling friends she's sure I'll come back. What she doesn't get is that this isn't a game. There's no tactic, no victor, it's done. Some say I was too harsh. I disagree. I acted with conviction. When someone shows their true self, especially when they think you're not listening, believe them. A few points have stirred discussion. The house was mine long before Laura ever walked in. We weren't married, and this state doesn't recognize common law partnerships. Legally, she had no claim. People ask why I didn't confront her at the wedding. What would that have achieved? So she could spin it, dodge, or make a spectacle. I let my actions speak. They said enough. There were signs, though I overlooked them. The subtle digs about my work being just labor, the way she'd skip my family gatherings, the uneasy looks when I showed up in work gear. It was all there. I thought she'd grow to appreciate those parts of me. I was mistaken. Some have called me harsh for walking away without giving her another shot. But guarding your self-respect isn't cruel. It's vital. 3 months on, life has a new cadence. The house build is moving forward. The foundation is set. The walls are rising. I spend weekends on site, ensuring every detail aligns with my vision. There's something grounding about creating something from nothing, untainted by compromise. Laura's stopped reaching out. Her sister mentioned she's in therapy, focusing on herself. I said I hoped it helped, and I meant it. Holding on to resentment is exhausting. My focus is elsewhere now. I've dipped my toe back into dating. Recently, I had dinner with a landscape designer I met through a project. She's bright, direct, and genuinely interested in what matters. It's early, but after all I've been through, it felt good to sit with someone without needing to prove myself.